going, oh, the Trump administration's evil. I don't think that's fair. They're all so dumb. Yesterday, was this just yesterday? Just yesterday, we found out just how dumb. Turns out, in an unprecedented security breach, in a highly classified, cabinet-level group chat about plans to bomb Yemen, Trump officials did not notice that they had included the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg. That must have been really weird for Jeffrey. Oh, looks like the group chat's blowing up. Yemen. This is a gargantuanly stupid screw-up. We have officially entered the Amelia Bedelia stage of government. Quit! Peak headset! Scramble the fighter jets! No, not with a whisk! It all started when the journalist, Goldberg, received a request on the messaging app Signal from a user identified as Michael Waltz, the name of Trump's national security advisor. Now, at first, Goldberg was concerned that it might be a hoax, but he got a hint it might be real when he was added to a text chain called Houthi PC Small Group. Turns out it was real, and that Houthis is short for Who these idiots running our government? In addition, there should be a name for that. In addition to Goldberg, the chat included National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, White House Advisor Stephen Miller, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and also in the Signal chat, Timothy Chalamet. Because these days, he's in everything. According to Goldberg, the texts sounded as if they were written by the people who purportedly sent them. Yeah, only the real Pete Hegseth would text, "You guys wanna get Patry started? It's 5 o'clock sometimes."
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's bonus show of Gaslit Nation. I am your host, Andrea Chalupa, a journalist and filmmaker and the writer and producer of the journalistic thriller Mr. Jones. The film the Kremlin doesn't want you to see, so be sure to watch it. We have a very special guest, Olga Lautman, a world-leading expert on the Russian mafia. Olga has been tirelessly tracking Trump, Russian corruption, and their assault on America in her Substack, Trump Tyranny Tracker, a living archive of the day-to-day horror show of the Trump regime. If you need to stay grounded in this deliberate attack against our daily lives, our minds, our ability to focus, there's a reason why people feel foggy and overwhelmed. It's called resilience targeting. They are overwhelming us deliberately. They're overwhelming the courts. They're creating chaos. They're defying basic human rights. They're doing this all intentionally to wear us down, break us down, steamroll us. Olga Lautman's Trump Tyranny Tracker helps you stay grounded by keeping track of all their many crimes. It is a damning indictment on not just the institutions that failed us, not just the so-called protest voters that voted against their own interests by staying home. Okay, yes, the lesser of the evils does matter, as it turns out. We've already learned this lesson in 2016. We did not have to learn it again in 2024, but here we are. And so it's a historical record. One could even see it as a documentation that will one day get Trump and his ruling clique and his regime to The Hague, where they will be joined by Putin and Putin's ruling clique in the Kremlin. God is willing. Olga Lautman made headlines this week by connecting the dots on Trump's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, and Russia in regards to SignalGate. Before we get into that, I want to remind Gaslit Nation listeners, our Monday salon at 4 p.m. Eastern will open with the book club discussion of Gene Sharp's Revolution Handbook, From Dictatorship to Democracy. Then in April, we're reading Octavia Butler's prophetic, The Parable of the Sower. Sour. You know me and my creative way with words sometimes. Anyway, so if you haven't read Octavia Butler's extraordinary novel yet, now's your chance to read it with us in April. And May's book club pick is Total Resistance, the Swiss Army Guide to Guerrilla Warfare and Underground Operations, because we never know what's coming, but just good to know. It's a historical document. That's why we're reading Total Resistance, okay? For more information on how to join Gaslit Nation salons and our monthly book club, be sure to visit the show notes of this bonus episode. And you can sign up to join us anytime at patreon.com/gaslit. That's patreon.com/gaslit. Discounted annual memberships are available. Now, an important call to action for our New York listeners, especially. Anyone across the country can do this in solidarity with New Yorkers, especially the most vulnerable, especially New Yorkers living with disabilities and getting up there in age and not wanting to catch any of the many unchecked viruses that are going to be going around more aggressively because we have a government that's trying to kill us in the long Soviet tradition. So if you care about protecting lives, please, please, please go to the show notes and check out the New York State Civil Liberties Union. Kathy Hochul is trying to push through a dangerous mask ban as part of the state budget due in just a few days. The New York Civil Liberties Union provides a simple contact form for you to voice your opposition to a mask ban in New York State, which will unfairly target vulnerable groups like people with disabilities and protesters who need to protect their identities in a time of heightened political violence. Why is Governor Hochul doing this? She claims it will help reduce crime, including by protesters who turn violent, which rarely ever happens. Masking is a right. Don't let them take it away from us. Look to the show notes on how to fight back. Now, Olga Lautman, welcome to Gaslit Nation. Olga, national hero, patriot of the world. You cannot stop her. She will fight you. Her name is Olga Lautman. Fascists beware. Okay, Olga, you made some international news this week by exposing connections between the SignalGate chat group of fools with the Kremlin. Walk us through that. And I want to just preface this that I'm so grateful for my dear friends that sustained me through this, including you, but I know how busy you are. So I'm the one always calling you to leave your house and go out and have a girls' night out with me because we're going to be glamorous and fabulous while fighting fascism, damn it. And so when you call me, especially in the middle of a workday, I know there's trouble brewing. And you called me on Monday and I couldn't talk because I was in the Catskills and I couldn't hear you. But then when I finally got back to civilization, it was like, look at what Olga Lautman discovered all over the news. So walk us through, what did you discover in terms of SignalGate? Your big headline this week all over the news.
First of all, I never had someone sing a song to me. So thank you. I love it. And second, yes to the night out. That's it. It's getting warmer. We need to actually take our mind off this lunacy. And yes, okay. So SignalGate breaks, and clearly this, was the main story of the day. Thanks to Jeffrey Goldberg for documenting everything, including times. So I read the story, and then I'm like, wait a minute, Witkoff was just in Moscow. Let me take a look to see, make a comparison, I didn't really expect it would be that easy. But I go back to Russian media. Of course, with Russian media, they document everything. I mean, like literally everything. So I find an article of them documenting the exact timestamp of when he took off from Moscow airport. So I look at the timestamp, and I have a slight dyslexia when it comes to, time conversions. I checked 15 times because Moscow is 7 hours ahead. And I was like, nope. He really was added to the Signal chat while he was in Moscow, which is incredible. I mean, I was like, are you kidding me? They're adding him to the chat while he's in Moscow. Like, why? Why would you do this? And then from Moscow, I mean, Moscow is bad enough in its own right, but then he flew to Baku. Baku, he had meetings in Baku on that Friday. So as they're planning this
Tell everyone
operation,
the significance of Baku.
I'm getting, as they're planning this, he's sitting in Baku. Now, Baku not only has Russian agents crawling through it, it has Iranian agents crawling through it. I mean, if we all can remember, or some people aren't aware, that Trump and Ivanka Trump, had a Baku deal and a Trump Tower deal that basically.
And Baku is the capital of Azerbaijan.
Yep. And Ivanka and Trump had in 2011, I believe, Baku Trump Tower deal where money was injected from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC. So, I mean, the fact that this man, Witkoff, this Kremlin asset, is sitting first in Moscow, then in Baku for the day, is incredible. And here on this side, these people are sitting and planning a military operation on the Houthis, which is a proxy of Iran. I mean, the whole thing is so insane that, I mean, it's crazy.
And so Witkoff, that is Trump's liaison for peace between Ukraine and Russia, because Trump promised he would end the war in Ukraine in his first 24 hours in office. Instead, he continues to extort Ukraine, which is exactly what he did to get impeached the first time around. And the latest minerals deal offer, which itself is obscene, right? It's like NATO, the only time Article 5 of NATO was used was by George W. Bush leading that charge after 9/11, rallying NATO with useless wars in Afghanistan and then Iraq. And that just destroyed America's standing in the world. But like, no one was like, hey, America, give us reparations for that, right? And when it came to America liberating, helping liberate Europe against the fascists the first time around, because this is the second go with the fascists of Europe, we never said to the Europeans, like, pay us for that. Instead, we had the Marshall Plan pumping all this money to help rebuild Europe. And so this extortion racket against Ukraine, the latest minerals deal, is so extraordinarily aggressive. It's basically giving up Ukraine's entire sovereignty and saying you're now a vassal state of the United States of America. We own all of your natural resources. Your government is subservient to us. You cannot make any single decision without us. You have no agency anymore. So it's basically America occupying Ukraine, which means Russia is occupying Ukraine because we have a Russian asset in the White House. Wouldn't you see Trump's mineral deal Ponzi scheme as just a way for the Kremlin to invade Ukraine by other means?
First of all, let's go back. This is not a deal. There is no ceasefire. Trump couldn't give a shit less how many Ukrainians die. This is a sham plan. And I wrote an article in my Substack about this. This is a sham plan to try to force Ukraine to surrender. All these negotiations in nonetheless Saudi Arabia, with the leader who butchered a journalist, an American resident. It's not in Europe. It is in Saudi Arabia. So this whole thing, the whole notion that this is, Trump is trying to settle the war, there is no attempt. What Trump is trying to do is inject himself as a cutout to try to force Ukraine to surrender. That's all it is. And if Ukraine wanted to surrender, they don't need a cutout like Trump. They can go directly to Putin and say, hey, we want to surrender, and that's it. They don't need to go to America to ask them, hey, can you help us surrender with Russia? So basically, everything that Trump is doing is on behalf of Russia. Everything. Everything from, the ambush at the White House where Vance and Trump ambushed Zelensky and kicked him out of the White House, which was an international humiliation, to the cutting off of weapons, to the cutting off of intelligence sharing, to basically attacking Ukraine, insisting they need new elections. I'm sorry, and I hate to curse, but what the fuck is it the business of the United States who Ukrainians pick as their leader? This is a sovereign country. Trump and Putin have no right to, discuss even who is the leader of Ukraine. I mean, this is up to the Ukrainian people. So frankly, this whole thing is a sham. The only positive is it's buying, a drop of time. And really, Europe needs to get their act together. They're right now, speeding up, assisting Ukraine and putting plans into action because at this point, Trump and Putin can negotiate whatever they want. They want to negotiate, to steal a country. No one's going to listen to them. Right now, this is on Ukraine and Europe, the rest of Europe, because if Ukraine falls, you're going to have the Baltics and the rest of Europe in a massive war with Russia. So, I mean, they want to sit and entertain these mineral deals and extortions of this and extortion of nuclear plants. They could do whatever they want. I mean, it's like having two senile, sociopaths sitting in a corner planning. Like right now, U.S. is in a position they need to just be ignored. Like, okay, yeah, you go plan this, extortion, but Europe has to take over and Ukraine. So this is where we are.
What is Whitaker's deal? I read that his daughter is actually working on humanitarian causes in Ukraine. And then he himself sounds like Tucker Carlson. He goes on Tucker Carlson to spread Kremlin disinformation against Ukraine. He can't even name which regions of Ukraine are under Russian occupation. Like this man is just
he doesn't care, frankly.
He's like the hair dye melting down the face Giuliani version, but like slightly more coherent. So where did Whitaker come from? What is his deal? And why can't his daughter like take his place?
So it's interesting because this is the third time, third official that their children are helping in Ukraine. And not their children, but a family member. Vance, who is extremely anti-Ukraine, pro-Russian, and pushes Russian propaganda for years, his cousin was fighting on the front lines in Ukraine. RFK Jr., who has pushed Kremlin propaganda and same thing as a Kremlin propagandist when it comes to Ukraine. His nephew was fighting in Ukraine. And Witkoff, his daughter, is, serving in Ukraine and trying to help. I mean, first of all, he is a typical sleazy real estate New York City businessman. I have no clue how in the hell. I mean, I do have a clue. This is the most dysfunctional regime I've ever seen. Trump is an authoritarian trying to overthrow democracy at lightning speed in US, but they're incompetent. I mean, I look at Trump and what they're doing. This wouldn't happen in Russia. I mean, literally. You wouldn't have an Elon Musk running around rummaging and taking every citizen's, records in Russia. I mean, even Russia has some kind of standards of who can access what information. Obviously, security services have it all. But I mean, Trump is taking, authoritarianism, clashing it with dysfunction, chaos, and incompetence. So this is a bunch of stupid people, and as a result, you get a Witkoff who's a freaking sleazy real estate guy, just like Trump, who conned his way through real estate deals, cheated people, had dealings with Russia before, and just wants to go back and make money in Russia. His only prerogative is not to know what regions are illegally occupied, what's happening in Ukraine. His only objective is, how do we wrap this up so I can go and make money in Russia? And in the process, he loves Putin. He himself said it. He, keeps flattering him, spreading his disinformation, all his lies about everything. So, I mean, the whole thing, again, like I said, US is right now such a humiliation for the world that the international community, everyone, is scratching their head and like, whoa, we need to be careful because at a minimum, US is dangerous because of the incompetence. At a maximum, US might invade one of our allies, and they need to be prepared for that because Trump is very clearly threatening to invade Greenland. The French troops, along with other European troops, said that they would go and defend Greenland. So Trump wants to put us in a position where we're going to be fighting our allies, militaries in Greenland, and fighting what? The Brits and Canadians in Canada, because he keeps insisting he's going to annex that sovereign country. So right now, between the incompetence and the danger and just the cast of characters that's in place, I mean, it's insanity complete. And going back to SignalGate, whatever anyone thinks of Israel, and what's happening in the Middle East, one crucial thing happened. Israel is a huge, supplier, Mossad, of intelligence for the United States, always has been. It's the eyes and ears in the Middle East for United States. Yesterday came out that this drunk Secretary of State of Defense, Hegseth, was texting in the Signal chat Israeli intelligence, sensitive Israeli intelligence. Do you really think Israel now is going to feel comfortable? They were already questioning sharing intelligence, with the United States after what Trump did to Ukraine and after he, his like closeness with Putin. Do you think now they're going to say, oh, gee, let's share our informants and information, very specific information we're getting, so it could go on a signal chat with one sitting in Moscow, the other, Tulsi Gabbard, I believe, was like in Asia. I mean, when this happened. So, he's really putting the United States into a very, very dangerous position because we're going to be flying blind as the threats against us pile up.
Tulsi Gabbard testifying to Congress about something unrelated, but obviously with the timing, she was getting grilled over this signal gate. She couldn't even name what country she was in when all of this was going on. I mean, Clown Car, Kremlin Klown Kar, KKK, doesn't even begin to describe it. It's just so extraordinarily dumb and dangerous what they did. And hopefully, it would be nice to see if one of them gets sacrificed, even though they're all at fault and they all should be in prison and they're all traitors to our country. But it'd be nice to see Mike Waltz leave his congressional seat in Florida, which hopefully might be won by Josh Wheel, who's a public school teacher. We had him on the show. If you don't have plans this weekend, make calls for him in Florida, everyone. Elections on the 1st. Anyway, it'd be great to see Mike Waltz lose his role in Congress to become the national security advisor to a clown car and then be the sacrificial lamb for SignalGate. We're all hoping that happens. But so what you said earlier is that the Kremlin's corruption is a lot more elegant and the gaslighting is stronger in the Kremlin. But in the US, the corruption is just so cartoonishly evil and clownish that it makes the Kremlin look disciplined.
Yes, because look, like I said, we have Musk, who's an unelected billionaire, who's another Looney Tune, running around with his operatives of hackers and freaking very questionable people who have, questionable past with either cyber criminal hacking groups. One of them, Big Balls, that has all our data.
Beaker from Muppet Babies. That's what we should call him.
So Big Balls has all our data, everything about our kids, our medical.
And he's the one that's the grandchild of a Russian spy who was killed by the Russians for flipping.
Yes, but Big Balls has our data. He just recently, a few years ago, I mean, he's only 19. A few years ago, he was tied to a cyber criminal hacking group that was hacking, FBI agents. This is who has our data. So do you think you would have a billionaire, any of the oligarchs in Russia rummaging through everything, treasury and every agency that they have, central bank, this? Never. I mean, that's what I mean, that they are, very disciplined. They have a very obviously repressive, cruel, corrupt system, but at least it's done in a disciplined way. Here, you just have, this is just pure insanity. Do you think in Russia the defense ministry would be sitting and chatting and texting away operational, information that's about to take place within 72 hours? And as it gets closer, okay, guys, we're almost there. All right, the first launch is about to happen right now. I mean, would they be doing this on a freaking commercial app? Never. If they did, they'd end up falling out a window, like in the process as they're typing. That's what I mean, that they're, look, the Kremlin is one of the most grotesque, horrific regimes on the planet. But with authoritarian regimes, whether it be Russia or North Korea or China, they have more discipline. Like, this shit doesn't happen. And this is what makes it more dangerous, because you have these people who have no experience, who are just crazy, and they're just running through and putting a bulldozer through the whole government, through every single agency, breaking every single protocol. I mean, there's a reason the American government invested God knows how much money in SCIFs, to make sure that people, when they want to go discuss, a military operation that's about to take place, that it's in a solid room, no phones, no watches, nothing. I mean, there's a reason that these protocols exist. And I hope, you say Waltz, I hope Hegseth goes, because if this happened to another military person, if they did the same thing, they would be court-martialed. They would be fired, no pension, court-martialed, and facing jail for texting operational information before a strike takes place. Imagine it was one of the pilots who decided, oh, I just got information from Hegseth where to go, and he's texting on Signal app or another app to someone else. They would be immediately fired, court-martialed, and charged with Espionage Act and other, breaking other laws. And that's it. So I hope Hegseth is the one to go, because he's the one who texted the operational information that was sensitive to the mission that was about to take place. That if this would have leaked in the wrong hands, we would have had Americans dead instead of this.
What are your thoughts on the recent shocking news that a Russian scientist at Harvard, Ksenia Petrova, was taken, when she was flying into the country? Now she's been sent, or is in Louisiana, being held for, there's all sorts of discussion over why she's being held, but it's part of a larger pattern of intellectuals, foreign professors, students, Tufts University, and so, the list is like Georgetown. The list is long at this point. Some are being held because of their political views, even though we have a First Amendment in the U.S. and due process. And so if this Russian Harvard professor gets sent back to Russia, where she was already arrested for anti-war protests in 2022, that's essentially a death sentence for her. What are your thoughts on that case?
Well, my thoughts are, just not specifically on the case, but what Trump is doing and what people need to realize is that he's testing his tactics right now on people who have green cards and visas. Once he perfects these tactics of silencing people in universities and just silencing anyone who dissents, he will turn it against the Americans. Right now, he's using, protesters and anti-Semitism as, under the guise of testing these tactics to perfect silencing dissent in universities, because universities normally, historically, in across the world, it's students who rise up first. So that's my thoughts on that. And also, again, it's it's the cruelty and sloppiness of ICE. I don't know if she was particularly targeted for any reason. It could just be, but I mean, we are disappearing Germans. We are disappearing Canadians. We're disappearing British. We have every country in Europe now, almost, who's issuing travel advisories to the United States, because we are a dangerous place to travel, and because people are being disappeared at the border and an entry point, and they have no due process. They're being thrown for 2 weeks into a detention center, and that's it. And we've done this to a Canadian. We've done this to so many people. I've been monitoring this. And then it goes a step further. We had a French scientist who was coming for a conference in Houston, and this French scientist arrives into an American border, whatever it's called, border control. He arrives there, I believe in Texas is where he landed, and they check his phone and see that he was critical of not even Trump himself, but just his scientific policies, because the man is gutting science. They refused him entry and sent him back. The French were furious. They're still carrying on, rightfully so. That, I mean, now you have people who are being screened. And then yesterday, I documented more. Now they're checking American citizens' phones when they're arriving back. So we are in deep shit. Trump is, these are clear authoritarian tactics. And that's it. And I mean, not only are people not, first of all, you have boycotts across Europe and Canada over tariffs that people are not traveling. Canadian bookings, future bookings, next month, 76% down. Through September, 70% down. So not only is he pissing off all our allies and, isolating us from the rest of the world, that people are being warned, do not travel to America. At the same time, he's going to further kill the economy, because it's not only about tariffs. If you have no people coming here, the, hospitality industry suffers, the restaurant industry suffers, services, car rentals, and a whole slew of things that have to do with tourism. So, I mean, I said it, in 2017, I said it last year. If you wanted to ever find a person, there's no foreign country that can destroy America in such an efficient and better way than Trump is doing. I mean, he is dismantling every agency, gutting health services, social security services, gutting everything, firing federal workers, chaos, contracts canceled. And I mean, this man destroying America's image, destroying our partnerships with, Canada. These are the nicest people. Like, to get under Canada's skin, you have to be so demented, because Canadians are just generally nice people.